When we think about survival or emergency survival, we have to understand that there's a difference between living and surviving. If we're in an emergency situation, we need to survive, and that means that we need to get our basic needs. We have four basic needs as humans to survive, and that those four things are things that if we don't get enough of them, we will die. And so when we think about survival, we are not trying to necessarily live out in the woods comfortably. We just want to stay alive long enough for us to get home or get rescued, whatever it may be. So the four basic needs of humans, do you know them? You might. Water, air, shelter, and food. Now, when I say shelter, I don't just mean a roof over our head. I mean shelter to protect us from the elements. Just things that keep us warm and dry, so that way we don't lose too much of our own body temperature and possibly suffer what's called hypothermia and get very sluggish and possibly die. So even our clothes would be considered a form of shelter. When we think about our four basic needs, there's a thing that we like to call the rule of threes. And what the rule of threes is that we have 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, and 3 weeks. These four basic needs, one of them we can survive for up to 3 minutes without it. One we can survive up to 3 hours without it before it's very bad. One we can survive for up to 3 days, and one up to 3 weeks without it. Can you guess which order they go in? Most people would figure that air is the thing that we can survive for up to 3 minutes without. Some people can hold their breath for a lot longer than 3 minutes. But on average, 3 minutes is about what people could do. If you try holding your breath for over 3 minutes, you'll see how difficult that is. So if you're in a situation where you don't have enough air, let's say if you're in a sinking boat or in a smoky building that's on fire, your first priority is get that air, because you only have about 3 minutes without the air. 3 hours. Now, a lot of people might wonder, what can you survive for up to 3 hours without? Of course, many of you have been able to survive without food for 3 hours. Even just going from lunch to dinner, you probably spent more than 3 hours doing that. The answer is actually shelter. Not water, not food. Shelter takes us 3 hours. And what I mean by that is our clothes and anything that we use to protect ourselves from the elements. Right now it's about 50 degrees, and it's not bad. It's pretty comfortable. It's not winter time, but it's certainly cold enough that if I didn't have my coat or all these clothes on, and I was just out here with just a light t-shirt and shorts, I would get cold enough that my body temperature would get very, very low, and I might not necessarily die, but I would suffer what's called hypothermia, which means that my body temperature would get very, very low, and that would make me very confused and very sluggish and very tired, and I might make some really, really bad decisions and not survive long enough. So it's really important for us to have shelter. That's 3 hours. You can survive for up to 3 days without water. I know that it seems tough, but we can actually go for 3 days without water. It might not be comfortable, but we can do it. And the 3-week thing is actually, surprisingly, food. We can go for 3 weeks without food. Admittedly, we won't be very happy about it, and it might be very, very uncomfortable, but we will not die if we don't eat for a couple days. So when you're out here thinking about the wilderness, your first priority, in fact, should not be food. If you've got air, what's the second most important priority? That's right, shelter. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit.